get the word out, and then we'll get started. Just the camera. Oh yeah, so much to do. We're gonna spout off, and we are going to post because post actually got a decent upgrade as well. And I am excited about this. A lot more of these sites are starting to understand how hard it is on older eyes to be all bright and shimmery. Welcome to the Bonnet Chronicles. I am your host, Kalari GXC. I am going to get ready to get this fired off, whether we get the chat filled up or not, but I know that some of my regulars should be in a few minutes. One of the things that I definitely want to talk about is Spoutable. As you can see, I've got Christopher Boozy's page headed up here. And the reason being is because he launched Spoutable this month, being a Black History Month, being a Black um, creator. I want to give him and his team creative props for getting this social media site that he wanted to be a counter to the other stuff. And I know there have been other social media sites. I've tried Post, which they just got a dark mode, so I'm a bit excited about that. Even though I don't think it's going to be my main alternative, I think Spoutable is my main alternative. You have Mastodon, you have Counter Social, and the other places that I don't even want to deal with. But the only reason why I want to talk about Spoutable today, yet again, is because of the recent wave of attacks. And it's coordinated. A, because of Black History Month, it's really easy for me to see when people target certain sites for who it attracts and who is running it. And it isn't hard for me to see how they're going to try to attack Spoutable, but it's not going to work. And as I said a few days ago, a few clanrins decided to say, oh, the site is blocking me from being able to express myself. I'm a romance writer and I should be able to put my work up on there and not be dinged for it. These heifers were trying to spread non safe for work information. As best as I could put it, they wanted to link things that could be considered pornographic, graphically sexually explicit. And they wanted to say, well, the site's going to ding people for sex work. I have plenty of friends all around the spectrum, including some who work in the sex industry that went on to Spoutable. They even agree it's a peaceful place for them. It's not as toxic. You can more than likely find clients that actually want to engage in healthy business transactions. So I don't buy the whole idea that sex workers are being dinged on Spoutable either. What I feel is there's going to be a coordinated effort against a Black owned social media platform. And those of us who are enjoying the peace of being able to post, the peace of being able to interact, I even got into a slight, I'm not even going to call it a debate. Somebody wanted to try to approach the whole idea of not declaring themselves as woke in the counter to me saying I don't declare myself an ally. And I made it clear that the reason why I want to declare myself as woke and I use the title as a woke witch is because I don't think being woke is a harmful thing. And you're able to have those conversations with people without it devolving into let's pile on, let's argue, let's block fest people. I'm not stalked by algorithms, which was another thing that I've complained about. Being online is fun, but it sucks sometimes. When I made my announcement on Twitter of Axiom Wealth and my engagement, I put the picture of the ring up. It was a big deal to me because it is a milestone that I am happy about. But I felt like the moment I opened those floodgates on that site, I was opening myself up to algorithms, and now I can't log on without wedding stuff being advertised at me, without a bunch of crap that I have absolutely no interest in. So I said it on Spoutable, and I mean it. When Greg and I finally take the step to tying the knot, which is in the future, it's in. We're gonna do it. We're not gonna have a big ceremony. I don't see the point. It's a waste of money. Both of us want a house to settle down into, and that is a better investment to us than a 1 day party that neither one of us as introverts are into anyway. So I really think that it's going to be nice to give those updates on Spoutable where I don't have to worry about the constant being attacked by ads. And some of the things that I want people to understand is we're beta testers for this site. As much as Christopher wants to make this site better for us, it is up to us to be on it, utilizing it, bug reporting if there's something wrong, and just making sure that we conduct ourselves in decent ways. It isn't that hard to be a decent person. I know the other place cultivated a more toxic set of combativeness. I'm not going to get away from it because I was very combative on Twitter. One of the reasons I became a little bit more popular than I think I deserved sometimes was the way I would go after MAGA and other problematic people on Twitter, and then it got tiring. You get burnt out. So it is a breath of fresh air to be on a social media site where we can just interact, engage. And I know, oh, it's an echo chamber. You just want an echo chamber. No, I want a pod of people that I can swim with. I want the flow of information and not be toxic. I don't want to be in the middle of the latest who we fight and who we against nonsense. And I'm seeing so many more of my friends on Spoutable. But what I want people to understand is they ask Christopher for certain features, even. I want to give a little history about Twitter because I think people think that Twitter just started off with all the features and amenities that they currently have. And no, I remember getting Twitter for work because that was the only reason why I even got with that social media site. I had originally was going to just stick to Facebook back in the day because I was on Facebook a lot. And my old job, a magazine company that did gaming reviews and stuff, said, you need more of a social media presence. So they had me get a Twitter. I had to sign up for Reddit and some other account that I don't even remember. I don't log into them, so I don't know. But Twitter, to me, made sense, even though it was more restrictive than Facebook with the amount you could put out there. It was customizable back in the day, which they changed because I think it caused way more problems for issues. But I remember decorating my whole entire page with Sailor Moon stuff, and then they restricted it to banner and you could change your profile picture. But it was nice, learning and going with them from almost the beginning to see what would work, what wouldn't work. And a lot of features that you have now on Twitter to gears and teams. So if you want to see Spoutable get to that point where we can put live feeds, where we can acquire something like Periscope, where we have a competitive thing with places like TikTok, we have to be the ones to generate that kind of buzz. We have to be the ones constantly interacting and showing a non toxic, viable platform. And I think a lot of people think that, oh, we can't compete with Twitter. Twitter is a fucking cesspool at this point. As much as I liked it, and I was on it a lot, my last tweet, which I am dead serious about that bonnet short being my last tweet, needed you to know that even though I get the updates and the emails, even though I see some of you who are splitting your time between the new site and the old site, I am done. I am locking my account down because I think anybody who has a certain amount of followers, even if you have over 50 followers, the idea of giving away your handle just doesn't sit right with me. I don't put it past Elon to sell our identities to nefarious people. So I advise people that instead of just, and welcome to the chat, respect, instead of just getting rid of your Twitter account, lock it down, let the cobwebs form. I did that on my Facebook account. I hadn't posted on Facebook in years. I kept in contact with some of my guild members via their chat site on there, and I finally remembered my login to let my family know that yes, kiddo's okay. He's 18 now. I'm engaged. We still don't need you, and I didn't even look at the replies. Facebook will always stay up so that I can know where they are and they can know where I'm at, but I don't ever intend on using the site. But I don't need anybody who can easily steal my identity acting like that's their page. And I feel like Twitter would do that, especially with people with big accounts. And I don't even consider my account that big, but it's big enough to where if they sold it to somebody, it could cause trouble. So I would much rather lock the account down and just not interact. And I feel like they're working on it. I don't have a lot of inside knowledge. They probably do send a lot of emails or updates that I just don't pay attention to right now because I've been fully writing the next book. But I do think that Christopher's team is working on a compatible spoutable app. What I'm hoping for is Adrian Jacks, a dear. I loved him on Twitter, but he has been going through some personal stuff, so I don't know if he's available. He had wanted to work on a app that would be a social media site for Black users for a while. I'm hoping that him and Christopher can work together on a collab and get something where Spoutable is portable for an app version. But that's just my hope because I do think that both of them are talented. And I think if they combine efforts, Adrian and Christopher could make an amazing app together. But the last I seen of Adrian, he was really going through some heavy personal stuff with the loss of his mom. So I don't know how far into the future that's going to be. Right now, what we have to put up with is a bunch of white women, including V.A. Wonk. And I hate even mentioning her. But I need to really call out that bitch. And I don't care at this point because she and I have a very tenuous history. Being somebody whose journalistic chops for me never went farther than game reviews. I never stooped to calling myself an actual journalist. I do like investigating, I do like talking about new stuff, but I've never called myself an actual journalist. But I did care about politics, I cared about social issues, especially in the early days of Twitter. When I jumped from gaming to actual social stuff, I started talking to people like V.A. Wong. And she comes across as that kind of woman that will ingratiate herself and act like she is your best friend and then stab you right in the back. The rumors that I was a cult leader because of my group, that started from women like V.A. Wong. And from what I remember, probably directly from her. So her attacking Christopher Boozy along with the anti-Meghan Markle squad doesn't shock me because she's been going after him after he exposed her for not only alleged plagiarism but lying. So I don't want people giving this bitch any more dust. But I do want to warn you that a lot of the stuff that is anti-spoutable is coming from women like her who tried a good faith argument saying, oh, I'm just looking out for people. No, you're not. You're looking out for your ego, Carolyn. And you're not fooling anybody at this point. It is troublesome to me that that other British bitch that I can't remember her name off the top of my head, and I really don't care to. They make coordinated efforts to attack anybody black. And it goes under the radar because they swear they're allies. They swear, oh no, we're sticking it to the Reds just as much as you are. But they really aren't. And they are only for amplifying their own careers. And yeah, I'm telling you, respect, it was messy. This shit happened back in 2016 when it all fell out. And I'm not acting like my group was perfect. We had our problems. I fully admit that a lot of threats that came out of our group wasn't okay. The shit with Matt was definitely not okay. I have women still blaming me, thinking that I knew that he was sliding into their DMs, using us as attack dogs to make them do things. I can't, like I said, if I had known about it sooner, I would have nipped it in the bud and definitely eviscerated him sooner, but it didn't. It all came to me well after the fact, and I take blame for what I can. I gave Matt a strong enough platform to where he could utilize our group in that way and could threaten people. I will always feel guilty for that. I will always feel guilty for how coordinated we were in going after Trump supporters and people who really made the platform toxic. But I do not regret the work that we tried to do to help the Democratic Party. What I do not appreciate was being called the cult leader for my efforts. I do not appreciate how many people in my DMs acting like we were buddy buddy and then in other chats talking complete shit. But that's why I am the way I am now. If you're a friend, you're a friend. If I don't know you, I don't know you. There's no in betweens for me anymore. Because I've played those games in social media far too long. That's why I don't fuck around with those people no more. People are like, oh, Tin, you're a bit brutal with this. I have to be. Because I've had people like VA Womp act like, oh no, we're allies. I care about your cause, Tin. And then literally with that, and I'm trying to think of her name because I remember it was her, the van guy. They called them the Scooby Squad. And they legitimately, in no mincing of words, were telling people that I was trying to create a cult. And all I wanted people to do was vote and vet the information that they were being fed. I don't need people to bother me. I don't want people worshiping me. I don't even want people around me half the time. But these people will lie and say things like, oh, that's a cult leader. Now, granted, when I ran my group, I was a bit strict with certain things. I didn't want people doxxed. I didn't want certain people in the group that I felt would be problematic. And then I come to find out that the people that I did kick out of the group were probably better for us than the ones I kept in. Running a group was exhausting, and that's why I walked away from that too. And I know people have made me offers, and I didn't want to offend people. I've tried it. I tried with Snatching Edges, which I love those ladies. I felt like if there was ever going to be a fit for me in the podcast group, Tony and them were the closest thing. But I couldn't commit because I really wanted to do my creative stuff. And I feel better doing the research, doing stuff on my own. I'm at that point now. And even with the CCC, trying to force a group of people to constantly talk about politics and social issues when conflicted schedules were a thing, when it really started to feel like I was making them do it instead of them wanting to do it, that's not it for me. If you don't feel up to doing something, I'm not going to make you do that. So it was easy for me to realize the writing was on the wall for the group. And all the other fallout, the interpersonal stuff, it didn't matter. But what does matter is when I see black run stuff constantly targeted by people. This whole idea that romance writers are anti against Spoutable because they can't post their work. I am a literal sci-fi writer. And I don't write for kids. My book is fully for adults. It has adult themes and everything in it. I don't post graphic images of what I write about. And I think that if you are a viable adult that wants to actually sell your product anywhere, you need to be smart because most sites have a TOS. And if you think the Bird app, because it's still the Wild West in certain areas, like one of the things that bother me about Twitter is trending tab, which I stopped clicking on because you didn't have to go too far into trending tab before somebody found what's popular and put something pornographic. I'm not a prude. Sex doesn't bother me, but I realize that some people don't need to see that up close and personal. And I've seen some graphic sex just in the trending tab of Twitter. All kinds. Like there's no, at least it's equal opportunity for it. I think that Spoutable coming hard on the fact that they don't want that on their site isn't to ding people. I don't think anybody who is openly LGBT is hurt by not being able to show sexually explicit content. I think it's nice for now because I know it's not going to be forever and I know people are going to try to find their ways around it to have a site where it's not constantly in our face. If I want sex, I'll go to my partner. If I want sex, there are a multitude of sites online if I didn't have a partner. I don't need it in my social media site, and I don't appreciate the recent attacks from the anti-Sussex squad. They're not fooling anybody with their nonsense. Pro-Musk people who are worried about not having a captive audience to their strategies, and all these right-wing nut jobs that aren't anywhere in between but just want to hate on people. I get it. Spoutable and Post, even Mastodon, are credible threats to the whole captive strategy that Musk thought he was going to have. And some people want to give Musk credit for taking over Twitter when he did so that they can have control over the narrative of the 2024 election. And I get where the conspiracy for that might seem plausible, but you're giving that man way too much credit. I used to think he was as intelligent as the news and media propped him up. And then you find out that his degree was honorary. It's not even for what he said it was. And the man might be con smart, but he is definitely not the technical genius that people make him out to be. And I am sick of people giving him credit for things that, honestly speaking, I don't think he's that bright. I think the whole reason why he wasted $44 billion on Twitter, as my digging has unearthed, is because of X that he's still smitten with told him, you need to help us fight the woke agenda. And that's the whole thing now. The whole idea is we're going to fight the woke agenda together and we need you. And it's a mess. And it's embarrassing, but it shouldn't shock you. Because honestly speaking, the whole Republican agenda is this. The Republicans are aiming in their every action to create a situation in America where it's underfed, underpaid, undereducated, uninsured, uninformed and unsafe, unable to vote, overpopulated and overarmed, and overly paranoid. Now, this means that the question is why. And it's because for some, chaos can weed out certain people, make profit off of certain people, and keep us fighting and divided and away from actual progress. They don't want an America that's actually unified. That's why Muppet Green was going on about the divorce. I seen that fuckery. I hate that I even have to pay attention to it. But the fact of the matter is, this is the desperation of the Republican Party now. When you have representatives like Myuri Green, which nobody should be taken seriously in the first place, saying things like America should have a national divorce. And I know, it would not work out because people forget that there's no such thing as full red, full blue states in our country, period. I'm from New York, and some of the worst racism that I have felt in my entire life happened on my own home borough of Staten Island. Man wanted to firebomb my family out of our house because he didn't want us in his neighborhood. I lived in the deepest part of the South with the redneckiest of people, and didn't have my life threatened like that. So yeah, y'all need to come out of the misconception of where racism happens, because need I remind you that tops happen in New York, that Uvalde happened in Texas, that racism is everywhere and there is no such thing as a safe red or safe blue state. So this whole idea of a national divorce is ignorant, but it wouldn't work on the simple fact that depending on the needs of your constituents, it shouldn't matter what your political ideology is. One of the things that I say about Senator Burr, despite what you found out later on about his COVID stock dealing, is when I let him know that I vote Democrat, but I needed help for kiddos' passport issues, he said, as your senator, that is my job. He didn't care that I made it clear I would never vote for him. He cared that I was a constituent under his district and that his office could help me. That is what a good politician, no matter what banner they fly, does. But unfortunately, too many for the Republican Party don't seem to care. They want to push this weird agenda. And they've got their new poster child. Let me see if I can find this. In Ron Deathsantis, this tool bag, who all week I've been seeing the articles warning people about don't take him lightly. I don't take anything lightly after 2016. I need you to understand that I made that mistake with Trump. Even though I did blog about how I worried that this country would ignore the danger in the room, And I wish I had links to my old blog posts before I created the CCC, because I let it be known that the moment that man mocked the disabled reporter, the moment that man slandered a Gold Star family, the moment that man didn't get laughed off the Republican National Convention stage, we were in danger. But people, oh, you're being hyperbolic, Tin. There's no way. No way. I'm not going to vote for him. I'm not even going to vote, Tin. Which wasn't any better. Those of you who sat home in 2016 were just as bad to me as those of you who willingly voted for that chaos. So, no, I don't take Deathsantis lightly. Because the shit he's doing in Florida, that wannabe mini dictator, going after black studies, going after trans and gay people's right to be in their own state. The attacks are on purpose because he's not just doing it to the base who are already craven bigots. He's doing it to see how far he can go and how many of you who are team apathy will not even bat an eyelash. He wants to roll under the radar for some and seem like a benign bigot. And it is on us to combat everything he's doing. He should never have become governor of Florida. But that is their problem right now. I don't want their problem becoming a national problem. So I do take Deathsantis seriously. Do I think he would make it in the national election? Fuck no. Not against Biden, who is doing his job despite all the drama and issue. And I'm going to get to that in a moment, because I think people need a little reminder of what it means to be a president of the United States, because people are really starting to forget all the things a president should be doing, because we have 4 years of a president who didn't do shit. But do I think the Republicans would run him as their front runner? Fuck yes. Because they need a charismatic yes man. And they need somebody who is willing to be cruel. Because that's all the Republicans have at this point. So yes, I do take all the articles written about him seriously. I take everything he's doing to black constituents in his state seriously. LGBT constituents in his state. I take it all seriously, but I will never say President Deathsantis, because I vote, my family votes, my friends vote, and we are not going to let this happen again. We let it happen in 2016, and by I say we, I mean those of us who could have pushed harder and didn't, those of you who stay home, not my black ass, because I voted for Hillary Clinton. But there are some of you who didn't step up and do the job. And this is your wake-up call to not let what happened in 2016 ever happen again. Because if you think things were bad under the fallout of 45, this motherfucker right here would make it 10 times worse. Issues like what's going on in Ohio. Let me see if I can get that up. No, that one's later. I want to make sure I get the proper thing up. The Ohio spill is an ongoing issue, and I am so grateful to Transportation Secretary Buttigieg, who has been embattled, dealing with GOP pushback, people attacking his identity like Chandra Preston and other idiots from the far left and the right, trying to ding this administration any way they can. This was not a black and white issue. This is the issue of constant corruption of our rail lines that has been ongoing since the rail lines first got laid. The railroad system in itself has always been a hotbed of corruption, from the damn near slave labor that it took to even build our railways to the lax safety regulations. And yes, I do feel that a lot of the current issues should have been mitigated. But when you are literally president of the United States and you have to deal with a state by state case basis for things, it does make it harder. Do I want to give excuses to what happened in Ohio? No. Nor do I want to just shift blame to anywhere but Norfolk Southern, the people who were transporting those toxic fumes in the first place. Everybody wants to make this a which side can we blame in the political sphere for this? Let's get away from that for a moment. because this was an ecological disaster. And it's really easy to turn this into a political fight or gotcha when there are literal people dealing with what could be chemical burns to their skin, inhaling toxic fumes, dead wildlife and vegetation that is probably contaminated. This is a very serious issue. And I am sick and tired of people using issues like this to turn it into a red versus blue thing. No, this is a legitimate, we have to get smart people on this. And I do believe that Pete Buttigieg, President Biden, Vice President Harris, and the team of actual competent adults are doing everything they can to not only take care of the Ohio citizens, but will look into actual safety regulations for our railway systems. Because it's like I said on Spoutable, while we didn't have a serious derailment here, we had a derailment here in Michigan, not that far from where I live. We've had several issues of plants that have caught fire or been under attack. We've had power stations being under attack, but the railways have always been a dangerous thing. And transporting shit like this, which is a literal toxic gas, lighting it on fire, which I'm going to call it right now, that had to be a DeWine call. That level of stupidity had to be the governor's call. And that is the only blame I will lay in that situation. Because when you burn toxic chemicals, did they not pay attention in chemistry class at all? It is just frustrating. And I know, respect. That's one of the things I say about people who want to do a national divorce. Because I have friends who live in Ohio. Blue people live in red states. And I know that the media and national news and even little YouTube sites now want to talk about Ohio because, oh, it's in the Rust Belt and all those rural people. But there are black people in Ohio that are suffering this negative impact too. What we have to do is, instead of turning it into the usual gotcha and the back and forth, to focus on what can be done. We have a competent president. We have a competent team. And this has to be a hyper focus on both safety regulations for the railways, but we also need more funding for our EPA, better cleanup procedures, because if this can happen there, that can happen anywhere. And with everything else going on in our country, including water issues, including grid issues, because our power people decided, well, we weren't sure if the president was going to ding us anyway, so we're just not going to spend the hundreds of billions of dollars that we make each year on upgrades. That State of the Union speech stuck with me because I could literally see an executive giving the president that excuse for why they won't do their job in ensuring that our power stays on. And we just had a very harsh snowstorm, and they're predicting more snow this weekend for us here where I live. And luckily for us so far, our grids have held out. Our governor has fully invested in better power plants and making sure that consumers does right by the people that live here. But it isn't easy. The bills have been really high of late too. It is the price you pay to make sure that your lights don't go out during a very, very cold winter. But I feel like a lot of people don't take seriously the job of both a president and your state legislators. What happened in Ohio happened because state representation doesn't regulate what the railways do in their state heavily. Depending on who's your governor, depending on who's your senator, they might even take certain kickbacks, allegedly. We have to be harder on our representatives to make sure that safety standards for us are taken seriously. And that comes with voting, it comes with vetting. And I don't want to believe that there are such things as a throwaway state. A lot of people love to throw that language out there. Just give up. Be apathetic. But the same state that might have given you J.D. Vance shut Nita Turner's ass down twice So I know that in certain situations, Ohioans can come out and say, not us. But I also know that they have gone through a lot of the same shit that most people in this country have. Is what I've explained to Greg as social conditioning for white voters. You don't want the government telling you what to do. The government's bad. The government's this. Anti-government rhetoric runs rampant in white households. It's almost breathable conversation to y'all now. Some of the most vehement anti-government shit I hear on a daily basis is from my white friends. Black families, we can't afford to be anti-government. We realize that whoever's in the government could literally fuck over our lives. So being a little more personally invested is more of a safety measure for us. We've never had the luxury of being fuck the government. The few that do, they were never going to vote in the first place, and we can't wrangle in every way we're brother and sister. But the most of us who walk the line of pragmatism, we've always believed that a competent government is better than a chaotic government. But some of the anti-government rhetoric I have heard constantly have been from white voters. And it doesn't matter if you're a white Democrat, it doesn't matter if you're a white independent, and it's certainly I'm used to it from white conservatives. This government can't tell me what to do, but I want the government to make sure that my neighborhood stays white. Want the government to make sure that they don't give welfare mothers too much, but make sure you subsidize farms because I don't want to pay too much at the grocery store. It's funny what they want the government to legally do to people, but don't care to have an actual functioning government that works for all of us. And it has been socially conditioned into them not only a sense of entitlement, but a sense of apathy towards anything that benefits all of us. And this is where the fight against wokeness comes out of. This is where the fight against decency comes out of. And this is where the whole idea that America needs a divorce. And I'm telling you right now, if we ever did go for something like that, which it wouldn't because it led to a civil war the first time we tried it, but if the country ever did get to that critical mass level of dumb and say, let's divide the country into America here and America there, the fact that you think that we wouldn't organize and get our people out, whether it's black people, whether it's LGBTQ+, whether it's people who just don't want to be trapped in that situation, you got another thing coming. If you think that you would get any more liberal dollars that you seem to think would just flow to you, would you forget that a lot of the states that are on national welfare are funded by states that you think are hosted by the liberal elites? If you think that you would thrive in your pro-gun, anarchy wannabe nation versus the technological advances, the societal and financial advances of us, because I'm calling Artside us, you got another thing coming. So if Muppet Green and them want to try to gather all of their anti-government, Yahoo, pro-gun weirdos and form their own little nation elsewhere, more power to you. I guarantee you, you would not last. You would not survive because you need us. And I think what you're realizing as we leave places like Twitter, as we move on to greener pastures like Spoutable and other sites, we don't need you. And it bothers you because your hate doesn't influence us or interest us, because your ignorance doesn't reach our levels anymore, because we know we have to keep it moving with or without you. And that even though you benefit from a society that we help foster, we're not out to hurt you because we're not on that same level. I don't want to see people suffer unnecessarily. That's never been my thing. But I'm not going to act like bigots on my friends. I'm not going to let them sit with me. I just want them to benefit from the same stable society that I want my family to live in. I think that is the role as a pragmatist that I can accept. That no matter what I do, certain people are going to benefit from it no matter what. But we're all benefiting from a more stable society. That's the goal. And oh man, I gotta fix my Nightbot. I was hoping that merch link would come up, but that'll be next. One of the things that I need to warn people about, and I hate to do it, but I think it needs to be up here just to be on the safe side. Tomorrow's the 25th. It's the Sabbath for my Jewish friends. It's normally a day of reflection. Um, some people go to the synagogue. Some people just relax and reflect. But apparently, there are some hate groups out there talking about turning it into a day of hate, which it was said on Spoutable. It was one of the thoughts that I had myself. Isn't every day for a bigot a day of hate? But apparently, there is a coordinated effort being noticed by groups like the FBI, CIA, actual big name groups of cells of, I don't even want to call them hate groups at this point. It is just average angry white Americans who want to cause trouble. They might call themselves Proud Boys, whatever fucking ridiculous names they want to give themselves now. But they're the same disaffected white groups who want to cause terror for Jewish citizens, LGBTQ, Black and brown, Asian Americans, and we have to stop giving them oxygen. I'm not saying to ignore flags like this, because I am glad that we are finally starting to call their antics out, but I am tired of seeing these fuckers steal our joy. I am tired of seeing these fuckers just think that they can bully and boss us into fearing our lives. I'm sick and tired of them using violence as their only means of acting out. They are harmful, hateful beings, but they do not deserve room in our hearts or a place in our heads. So if you are out on tomorrow, please be safe. My ass is snowed in, so it's not an issue for me. But for those of you who want to just have a nice Saturday out, be on guard. Keep on alert. If you see somebody that seems suspicious, do your part to get to safety. Do your part to warn others, but do not engage these people, because this is what they want. They want the violence. They want the conflict. They want to cause chaos, and it is not worth it. I want people to stay safe because we need you. We need more people, good people, to stay alive and safe and well. We need less people to end up victims of these hate groups. And I know it's not easy when they're targeting your mosques, they're targeting your synagogues, they're targeting your churches. They're just targeting you. We have got to go on the defensive and not put ourselves in the line of danger just to stick it to these wannabe Nazis. It's not worth it. Your safety comes first. Be on alert. I am hoping that it is just a warning and nobody does anything stupid, but this is America. We've had 0 days without gun violence, 0 days without issues. It is a country where a person can legally buy an AR-15 and end the lives of people just in a grocery store, at a movie theater, at a church, going to a concert, going to school. It is on us if we want things to change in our country. If we want these groups to feel less emboldened. If we want to see less articles warning people about days that should just be an average Saturday. But the reality of the situation is we still have too many people who think they would be safe no matter what. And you are the ones we need to wake up. You're the ones who will say, I don't want to be judged as too woke. I don't want to be accused of canceling anybody. And yeah, I've seen that gross ass Roseanne Barr comeback wannabe tour talking about cancel this. Bitch, we already did that. I don't know why you titled that. I won't be watching your stand-up special. It's bad enough that I'm even talking about it. But you're not canceled. You have your fans. They're just hateful bigots like you are. You'll never get money from people like me again. I will never watch your shows, not even reruns. But good on you that you'll find your little hateful niche and have your little real echo chamber of bigots amplifying your career. You just won't have an open audience. And there's been a lot of pushback within the comedy scene about, oh, people are too woke, people are canceling people. if you're a piece of shit human, it's going to come to the surface. If you're a decent stand-up comedian, you shouldn't worry about having to change up your stuff to maybe not be so damn offensive to people. If you can't tell a joke without hurting people, then be prepared for the fallout of some people not wanting to listen to your jokes. But if you're worried about having to change yourself to accommodate people, that's on you. There is nothing stopping people from being who they are. You're going to attract and repel whoever. It is funny how some people just think that they deserve an open audience and people just shouldn't take the harmful, hateful things they say seriously. It's one of the things that I don't get heavy into when it comes to the Harry Potter thing, but I think I need to officially put my stance on this out there because I know as a gamer, people have come to me asking me how I feel about it. And I'll be honest, I was never into the series. And I don't say that to be cool or to think I'm hipper and hip or to ding J.K. Rowling because there's plenty I can ding her on. When the series came out, I was way older than its target demographic anyway. I was a young adult. I was more into things like anime, Daria, and stuff like that. So I dodged that bullet there with the books. The movies came out, really wasn't my cup of tea either. So I never got heavy into it. I learned enough of the lore to where my friends who were heavily into it could talk about it around me and I wouldn't stare at them blankly like I've done several times in my life. So yeah, I know the houses somewhat, the Hufflepuff and the Ravenclaw, I think, and other shit like that. But I don't care enough to learn more than that. I just wanted to be able to let my friends converse, but I was never into the series. So I've watched the back and forth in several of my friends' live streams about the game and why people aren't giving it a chance and they're blaming J.K. Rowling as, look, point blank, even if I did get into a series, the stuff she has said about women and trans rights troubles me. And I can't support it. If that's not you, that's fine. But telling people that they shouldn't feel a certain way when their loved ones are being attacked by somebody's ideology isn't right. Telling people who grew up with that series, that love that series, that feels betrayed because their identity came under attack. It's always the people who y'all are the default, especially straight white men. Right now, I don't want your opinion on how I should feel about this game. If you like it, good for you. But I am allowed, as my own person, to not want to go into that fandom. I watched Moist Critical play that game. I watched him design his character. I watched him go through all the exposition. I watched him play several little mini games and stuff. Didn't interest me. Could I have made more of an informed decision by playing the game myself? I didn't want to drop that much money on it. I am saving for Dragon's Age 4. Sorry. Not sorry. I'm not interested in the series, and it does help that J.K. Rowling turned out to be kind of a trash human being. I no longer have to feel bad by saying I really wasn't into the series in the first place. I'm not trying to be cool by saying I wasn't in the series in the first place. But it does help that my vibes about her wasn't lying. I just never really got the mystique of her. And I do appreciate how many lives she helped change with her stories. I think that is the power of a good series. And I'm not even going to knock the Harry Potter series, even though I probably could pick some of the tropes apart in it. I think it's helped a lot of people get into reading, which I love as a writer myself. But it just never was a story for me. So if you enjoy Hogwarts Academy, the game, do so. I am not the type of person that thinks I don't like this person, so you don't have to like this person. But I do want to warn those of you who are enjoying the game that want to knock those of us who have no interest in it for whatever assumptions you want to make to just mind your business. Enjoy the game if that's what you want to do. But you can't push people into being a captive audience because it's something you enjoy. It's one of the things that people on Twitter are going to learn. Is one of the things people in this Hogwarts Academy game has got to learn. Is what these neo-Nazi wannabe motherfuckers need to learn. You cannot make us pay you the attention we don't want to pay you. And if you turn out to be a trash human being towards people or a false gatekeeper towards what means to be woman, that is my real problem with J.K. Rowling's whole stance and siding with known turfs at this point. The whole idea of trans, reactionary, whatever bullshit they want to call themselves is problematic in so many reasons because they want to deny trans women, especially the right to call themselves women. They want to dominate and dictate what it means to be a woman, but they don't give a fuck about the fact that violence against women is still strong. Violence against trans women and death of trans women are even greater. They don't want to talk about laws that harm us in ways of voting, body autometry, and everything else. But they want to go, well, that person wants to call themselves a woman, and it makes me sad. And my feelings should be on the same par as everything else, and it shouldn't. Transgender women are not a threat to me. They are my sisters. And if you got a problem with transgender women or transgender men, you've got a problem with me. And I don't say this because I think of myself as any ally or any stupid title like that. I'm just a human being that's sick and tired of seeing people suffer because of who they are. I got to confidently understand who I was after 45 years, and it wasn't easy because of the way women were treated. I went through a time in my life where I wondered, am I a woman? Do I feel confident in this? Do I want to deal with this? And yes, I don't think there's any problem with feeling female. But I think there are ways of feeling female that are different from other people's ways. And once I got comfortable being the way I am, it made life easier. And there are still too many women that aren't in this place yet. And I hope you get there. But you're not going to get there if you're busy gatekeeping against our trans sisters. It's not going to help you feel any more feminine. It's not going to protect us against people who still view our gender as less than. It is not going to move us towards a society where we have an equal say in our rights in life. So you need to stop being swayed by the low-hanging branch of bigoted fruit. I know it's easy to nibble on. It feels tasty. You think you got a group of like-minded foes, but it will aid you. Let it go. Transgender people are not your enemy. And I really hate that I even have to say that in this time, but it is what it is. Now, I want to get to some actual good topics before I close out for the night. This picture, and I got the mug right here, I'm excited, is just one of the many things in the current merch shop. It says chronically unmotivated, which is a problem for a lot of us who suffer from both health, physical, and mental health problems. It's a joke on how I get sometimes. But I thought it would make a cute mug, little kitty cat, Twitch logo, and we'll put this in the merch shop. If you want to help the channel out in any way, shape, or form, I will have the link for the merch shop in both my about section on Twitch, and I will put it in my YouTube stuff. But it's a cute mug. We've also got hoodies, shirts, and as the webcomic that I am developing with my friend gets done, we will have merch for that as well. I am excited about this. Between this, writing, and creating stuff, I feel like I'm finally starting to come in to a lot of things, and there's been a lot of up and downs. I know my post on Spoutable a few days ago had some people confused. I go through seasonal mood swings, especially, and the lows can hit you hard. But Kiddo's 18th birthday happened last Sunday, and while it was a good feeling that my baby made it to 18, there was a lot going on in my mind and a lot going on with my relationship. And while it's happy, we are engaged, there are some things that he and I really needed to confront and work out that we weren't. Like many adults, we get into our heads about what we can say to each other, what we shouldn't say to each other. And working on the book and the book release and everything else, it all built to a head. And we had what I feel was one of the deepest talks that he and I could have ever had, and it was needed. I think that the problem with a lot of couples is not talking to each other, not saying what's on your mind. You don't always have to be blunt about things, but if you're feeling scared about something, if you're feeling like your partner's not seeing you, if you're feeling like I told my partner point blank, I feel alone sometimes. They need to know that because sometimes they really just can't see that. It is important to have that line of dialogue because that silence that you think you're sparing their feelings with could be slowly killing your relationship. And it was a hard day Sunday for me because D&D got canceled. The group just fell apart. We had to pretty much release the kitten that we had taken in because we couldn't get it the vet help that we wanted to be able to. The kitten's still okay, but it was hard. And it all just came to a head for me because I have a lot of unresolved issues from my past. I'm trying to work through them, but it is harder for me when something's given to me and then taken away. And I did not act like a rational adult in this situation because it hurt. And when I'm hurt, I tend to retreat. I think that in a healthy relationship, you should be able to express yourself better. You should be able to talk to each other. And if you are in a relationship, it doesn't matter if your relationship is 2 days old or 20 years. The moment you get to a point where you can't openly talk to each other, openly be yourself around each other, that's an issue. And I just don't want to see people fall apart because they get too afraid or too stubborn in speaking it out. I got lucky. I am legitimately dating somebody who I consider my best friend, who has seen every side of me, good, bad, in between. I don't have to hide any of my moods around him. I don't have to hide any of myself around him. And it wasn't easy because I worried before we started dating whether or not he and I should take this step, because if we break up, I don't just lose a boyfriend, I lose my best friend. But I don't think that's going to be an issue. Because unlike some people, I don't feel like I have to wear a mask around him. I don't have to change anything about myself. He knows full bore my past. He is my present. And I hope for him and I to be my future. And I think the only way forward for me, him, or any couple is to remember, we don't have ESP. We're not psychic. And the best measure to save your relationship from unnecessary drama and trouble is just say what's on your mind. Talk it out. Very, very funny, dear. But I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. Thank you so much, Respect. Thank you, Action Wolf. Thank you to all the lurkers. Once again, the new merch is in the shop. I really love that kitty cat mug. Seriously. You know, like I said, so much on the horizon to look forward to. And now that we have solid sites like Spoutable, solid sites like Post, I am not as worried as some of the doomsayers about Musk taking over Twitter. We will organize. We will get the vote out. We will be a front for democracy. But until next Tuesday, hopefully, because kiddo school has just been, that's a whole nother Bonnet Chronicles. But fingers crossed, I'll be back on Tuesday for another Tell It Tuesday Bonnet Chronicles. Till then, have a great weekend. Hug your family. Stay safe. If you plan to go out tomorrow, please. Jam is my name, the one who does the same. Jam is my name. Misfits, our songs are bitter. We are the misfits, and we're gonna get her. Jam, the music's yes, we will be back hopefully on Tuesday. You have a great weekend. Take it easy and please stay safe tomorrow if you're going out. I know that it might not happen, but just in case, I want you to all stay safe. Have a great weekend.